Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Elaine Cha. On Tuesday afternoon, one St. Louis courtroom was packed. Everyone there sat eagerly and anxiously, waiting to hear how Circuit Judge David Mason would rule in a case that could set Lamar Johnson free after serving nearly 28 years in prison for a murder that Johnson always maintained he did not commit. Here's Judge Mason before announcing his decision.
These cases are not easy, and they shouldn't be. They should not be cavalierly ruled upon. Some people said, why don't you rule from the bench? I said, you can't treat a case like this that way. Why don't you make one ruling and write an opinion later? I said, well, to be perfectly frank with you, until I have plowed through the file, I really couldn't be 100% certain of what my decision would be.
After talking for about 6 minutes, Judge Mason delivered his decision.
It is hereby ordered that the motion of the Circuit Attorney of the 22nd Judicial Circuit filed herein for the benefit of Lamar Johnson is granted.
And with that, Lamar Johnson walked out of the courthouse later that afternoon, a free man. At a celebratory dinner at Maggie O'Brien's that night, Lamar Johnson expressed a host of emotions, among them relief.
Truth finds a way. Truth finds a way.
So much has changed in the almost 28 years Lamar Johnson was behind bars. And in many respects, he said he just wants to experience the ordinary things about, well, life.
Everything. Everything. I want to hold a baby. You know what I mean? I want to stand in line and be frustrated because it's not going fast enough. All the things that I think a lot of people may overlook and maybe even be annoyed by, I want to experience it, and so that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
Johnson also said he's looking forward to being on a plane and seeing the ocean for the first time. His daughter is getting married in April. He'll get to be there for that. Lamar Johnson's release is a long time coming. He was convicted of killing a man named Marcus Boyd in 1995. After serving 14 years of a life sentence, the Midwest Innocence Project began representing Lamar Johnson in 2009, and in 2015, attorney Lindsay Runnels of the Kansas City-based law firm Morgan Pilot began representing him. Among other attorneys, Runnels was by Johnson's side when Judge Mason vacated the murder conviction. Here's Johnson getting emotional, talking about his attorneys.
I can't even describe how I feel about my attorneys, especially Lindsay Runnels. She's been a sister and a friend. God sent me his best angel with her. He did.
And attorney Lindsay Runnels joins us now. Lindsay, welcome to the program and congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am happy to be here today.
Well, it's been nearly 48 hours since your client was released, and I understand you are now back in Kansas City and at the office at that. How are you feeling?
I think Lamar describes the emotion best, and for me, it is relief. I have a lot of joy seeing him out doing what he wants to do, but overwhelmingly, it's relief for me that this is over finally, and the right result has happened.
And a bit earlier, we heard the joyous reaction inside the courtroom when Judge Mason announced his decision. What was it like to be there in that moment?
These are the moments that sustain you in these cases that often take years and have a lot of losses. And Lamar's case is like that. A lot of losses led to that moment in the courtroom. It was For me, very anxiety inducing. You always want to believe that it's going to come out the right way, but until you hear the words, it is a feeling that's difficult to describe. Very nervous, but ready, and knowing that the facts were on our side helped calm all of us, but we were nervous for sure.
And that decision, we heard Judge Mason's remarks before delivering it. It went with a court order that was a full 46 pages long. Lindsay, can you briefly explain the key findings that led Judge Mason to conclude that Lamar Johnson was innocent?
Sure. The first and the most important is that he found that Lamar had met the actual innocence standard in Missouri, and that was the most important claim. The others were constitutional claims relating to the eyewitness identification. He found that it was unreliable, and additionally, some payments that were undisclosed to that eyewitness. He found a constitutional violation there as well. And so he found not only that Lamar Johnson was actually innocent of this crime, which we have known for some time, but that his trial was void of all of the constitutional protections that ensure reliability. So he vacated those convictions on two bases: innocence and the constitutional violations.
So it was what he did not do and what the Constitution says he deserved.
It's exactly right. We have these protections that ensure fair trials, that we disclose information about the witnesses if they have any benefit, or if they've been incentivized, or if they have been paid, as the eyewitness was in this case, more than $4,000. The jury never knew any of that information. They didn't know that the jailhouse snitch had testified before and that also received a number of benefits in exchange for his testimony against Lamar. So when the jury doesn't hear those things, we can't be confident in the result, because not all of that evidence that the Constitution requires that they have was before them.
Mm-hmm. So clearly getting all of that evidence together took quite some time, and for many years, the legal pathway for Lamar Johnson's release was blocked. So St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner's Conviction Integrity Unit first highlighted Johnson's case as a wrongful conviction in 2019, but then it wasn't until the Missouri legislature passed a law in 2021 that prosecutors like Gardner got recourse to set aside wrongful convictions. Did making the case for Lamar Johnson go smoothly from there on, Lindsay?
No, it did not, and it wasn't smooth throughout that protracted appeal up to the Missouri Supreme Court. When Ms. Gardner opened an inquiry into Lamar Johnson's case, we knew that there was no clear mechanism in Missouri for a prosecutor to go to court and correct a wrongful conviction. It was always going to be Lamar Johnson with Miss Gardner that tested that. And when you test, you have to be ready and prepared to lose. And in this case, the facts we knew were solid, were clear, could not be impeached, and that the real perpetrators had long confessed this was a solved crime. And it was a good case for testing whether or not Missouri would open a mechanism for prosecutors like Kim Gardner and others who became aware of a wrongful conviction in their office. The Missouri Supreme Court decided that Missouri law did not provide that procedural mechanism to prosecutors in Missouri, but did indicate that the legislature had a job to do. Please fix this. And the legislature very quickly answered that call from the Missouri Supreme Court with only, weeks left of session, led by Senate Minority Leader John Rizzo and others. They passed it quickly, and the governor signed it in response to the Lamar Johnson case.
Was the passage of that at all a welcome surprise?
It was definitely something that we wanted and tried to pass in years prior, but with the loss of Lamar Johnson's case being so public and the support for him coming from all across the country, elected prosecutors, retired judges wrote amicus briefs, the support for us going into the Missouri Supreme Court, on the law should and must provide this mechanism was, in my view, very helpful to the legislature becoming educated about the tragedy of this case and others that would come before and after Lamar, that enabled the legislature to organize and pass legislation that had stalled in sessions prior.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of after Lamar's case and this decision, what are the implications of this decision for others who have also been wrongly convicted of crimes that they did not commit?
The collateral consequences, in lawyer speak are great, and they're good, because Kevin Strickland is a free man today because of that law, and there are others that are pending, and other prosecutors in Missouri, from St. Louis to Kansas City and to all of the rural areas in between, now have the power and the authority to do justice if a case comes across their desk that they believe was in error. They can go to court and they can fix it, and we should, expect prosecutors to do that. But now they have a way, and that's thanks to Lamar Johnson and Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were part of the dinner that happened in downtown St. Louis afterward, and you just talked about lawyer speak. I mean, what in human speak was it like to be part of that group together? Eating out at a restaurant with Lamar Johnson and his family and supporters?
It was just full of love, and it was small, and it was folks that have known and loved and supported Lamar Johnson for decades. It included exoneree Ricky Kidd and exoneree Larry Callanan, a client of mine, and seeing them together was just overwhelming. To see both the result of when the system gets it right, that these men can be out and free and laughing and finally able to see the world outside of prison walls. And between the three of them, there's 70, 80 years of time inside custody, and they all knew each other and they served together. So it was very special to see the three of them surrounded by their lawyers and supporters that had helped them get to where they were. It was really overwhelming, and those are the moments that you bottle up and you keep inside for the losses, for the days that are really hard.
And as you were talking about the process, the long years that Lamar Johnson both waited and fought, I couldn't help thinking about people who maybe give up along the way because the systems are just so arcane, and things happen to disrupt the progress. I mean, how many people do give up along the way to trying to win their freedom?
It would be hard to say, but I can tell you that the number of folks who need lawyers to be doing this work is more than we have lawyers to do. They take too long, partially because of these procedural mechanisms, and then the other for Missouri is the objection of the Attorney General's office often delays these cases far longer than they ever should be delayed. And so whether or not they give up or the waiting, they die in custody waiting, I know is true. So it is a problem, and one that I know that we can do better, and we can fix this with the right attitude and some will to do innocence cases better in Missouri.
And as I've been reading and even using the word free to describe Lamar Johnson, he has lost so many years of his life. He's now 49.
Yes.
And he was, in the audio we heard earlier, talking about wanting to get onto the plane, wanting to see the ocean. He'll get to see his daughter married in April. What can you tell us about his next steps with this new phase of life from out behind bars?
he wants to do it all. And so I think the problem for Lamar and to those who love and counsel him will be to help him decide, not everything all at once, because of course he wants to work. He is going to need to financially support himself. Missouri does not have a compensation package that would compensate Lamar Johnson. He has, a GoFundMe that will help him, but other than that, he's on his own. So he wants to get to work. He wants to be part of the movement. He knows that he's left behind friends inside that need help. He wants to talk to legislators. He wants to do all of the things that exonerees do when they get out, which is be part of the movement to fix our system, to educate about our system and its errors and its faults. And he wants to do it all. So.
And what will you be doing in the time that he is doing that?
Well, I'll be available as needed for lunch dates, and I love seeing them do what they want to do. So he will always have a home in my office and in my life. And so I will enjoy just being able to work with him as an advocate for other folks and seeing what he's going to do with his life and just being, a spectator to that, which makes me incredibly happy. For me, I'll move on to the next one and we'll start working on it, and we are working on it in partnership with the Midwest Innocence Project.
Well, if this conversation is any indication, I can see why Lamar Johnson became so emotional in thanking you. Lindsay Runnels is an attorney who served on Lamar Johnson's legal team. Johnson was released earlier this week after spending 28 years in prison for a murder he did not commit. Thank you, Lindsay, for your time, and congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Today's episode was produced by Alex Hoyer, with audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr. Our production intern is Avery Rogers. Our executive producer is Alex.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Our podcast proudly supports St. Louis artists by using music from Life Creative Group.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.